This is Pro Series Off Topic.
Welcome back to Off Topic. This is episode 74, coming off a in-person Pro Series episode week 154 with Will Marshall. If you missed it, we shot it here. It was actually the first one I've ever shot in person in my basement studio. A great episode. He's a personal trainer. We talk about fitness. We talk about the perception of a fitness trainer on social media. We get into a lot of stuff, but it was a great episode, getting a lot of great feedback from it. So head over to YouTube or Spotify to watch it in full in video form, or it's on any type of podcast platform that you listen to. But I want to get into country music this week. First up, last week we dedicated the whole episode to Toby Keith because of that special that aired last Wednesday on NBC. I wanted to give my opinion on the episode. I absolutely loved it. I think Toby would have been very proud of it. I think his family had a lot to do with the approval of what artists were singing, adding the UFO stuff, and then adding his fundraising stuff and his charities that he has created throughout his career. So it was a great special. I recorded it. I'd probably watch it again. Toby was one of those artists that were always consistent with releasing music and has always just been so consistent with in my life. Again, I have an album right above me, his Shocking Y'all album, which is one of many amazing non-skip albums. But it was a great special. If you have not seen it, you probably could go see it on Peacock or on demand or whatever you have for cable. But very well worth it if you're a Toby fan. I think some of the standouts, I think the very last performance of Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue with Parker McCollum was so good. There were a couple that were a little bit iffy just on how the artist sang and stuff, but I think overall it went really, really well. I think Toby would have been very, very proud of how NBC created that and the production company created that. It was a great thing to see. But I wanted to get into kind of like a pet peeve of interior designers. I think if you've ever worked in a showroom and had walk-in traffic, you've heard this many times before, and it's that, that customer walks in and say, hey, can you give me a price on this kitchen? It's just a standard 10 by 10 kitchen, or hey, can you give me a price on this standard galley kitchen? And you look at them like, what? That's not a thing. It's like you going into a car dealership and saying, hey, can you give me a price on a standard car? Well, what do you want? Do you want a sedan? Do you want a convertible? Do you want a SUV? Do you want a crossover? Do you want a midsize SUV? What do you want? Like, it's not there's nothing standard in the building world. Nothing standard unless building codes. Building codes are the only thing that are standard, but cabinets aren't standard, countertops aren't standard, layouts are 100% not standard. I know that has drove me crazy, and I was talking with a customer this week that just went through that, and I'm like, it's so funny. But again, if you're not in the business and you've never done a home renovation project, it's probably easy to think standard because a lot of businesses do have standard stuff. But standard in the home renovation world is not a thing unless it's building codes. It's the funniest thing to go through, but it's just not a thing. And I wanted to bring that up because it was a conversation I had this week with a customer, and thought it was pretty funny because it brought me back to my working in a showroom days with that walk-in traffic. You'd get that all the time. Or they'd walk in and say, can you price me this vanity? It's just a standard vanity. I'm like, that's not a thing. It's just not a thing, guys. There's no such thing as a standard vanity. But let's get into country music this week. A lot of new music. We'll do the media base chart last because there is some cool stuff that I do want to talk about there. But first up, Russell Dickerson's came out with his EP called Bones, the EP. Great. Again, I'm a huge Russell Dickerson fan. He has some great songs on that: Bones, What a Life, Cool Beer, Conversation, Acoustic, These Nights, These Days. I basically just named the whole EP. Go listen to it. It's a great EP. Hopefully this leads into a record at some point because we are a little overdue for one, Russell. But let's get ahead into Randy Houser's new song with Justin Moore, Country Around Here Tonight. Great song. Kind of giving me that early 2000s, late 90s country vibe. I'm really digging that. And I think he kind of sounded like that with his last song with Riley Green as well. I'm always a huge Randy Houser fan. He has that very, very powerful voice. And I think he has a very underrated voice. I think when you think of powerful voices in country music, you automatically think Carrie Underwood, Chris Stapleton, Shea Mooney, but you don't really ever say Randy Houser. But Randy Houser has that gut-punching, powerful voice that's never really talked about. But up next, Dylan Scott, his new song, You Think I Was a Cowboy. This is going to bring up a conversation that I've been thinking for a while. If you remember like the mid-10s, 2010s, bro country was a huge thing. I think we're finally entering, I don't even actually want to say finally because I'm kind of getting sick of it already, cowboy country. And not meaning it's going back to traditional sound. I mean, every song has cowboy in it. And it's becoming a lot. I think it's the weirdest thing, and I'll bring it back when we're starting to talk about the chart as well. Another song that I feel like artists hear a song that they like, and then they write a song exactly like it and release it at the same time. And it's the weirdest thing. But I feel like country music has always done that, and that's how like bro country started. And cowboy country is now starting. But I don't know if that's a conversation, but I think I just declared that it's cowboy country time because everybody's releasing a song with cowboy in it. Evan Honer, don't really know who that is, but I'm going to look into him. But he released a song with Haley Witters called Fighting For. Best way to describe this song, it is like an alternative song that is country. You'll know what I mean when you listen to it. It's actually a really good song. It's not what I was expecting, but I was happily surprised with the song. Next up, Brian Kelly came out with another song, Put Myself On. He is just releasing song after song, which is awesome to see. I'm not a huge fan of this song compared to the other songs that he has released this summer, but go check that one out. Next up, Noah Hicks is not new to this podcast. I've talked about him with the song with Justin Moore and then releasing his solo version of that song. He came out with a song with Shaylin, which I've never seen or heard her yet. But they came out with a duet together called Second Time Around. It's actually a pretty good song. Their voices sound great together. I think Noah Hicks in the next year or so is going to pop off. He's just an artist that has that really, really cool raspy voice that country fans are really leaning into. And I think he does the social media game very well with promoting his music. With actually the next artist that I'm talking about with the song of the week this week, with his name's Blake Prohl. He came out with a song called Crazy Stupid Love. All over TikTok. He's been teasing it for a while now and finally came out. But you may know him. He was actually in the NFL for a year. He actually went to college for East Carolina Pirates for football. Was in the NFL for a year with the Minnesota Vikings. And was also on this past season's American Idol. That's where I first saw him or heard him. But he finally came out with a song that he's been teasing for quite a while called Crazy Stupid Love, and it is definitely a very, very catchy chorus. I say go check this out. It's definitely my song of the week. I think he's going to be a pretty big artist. He posts so many covers on social media, so go follow him. But that's all for new music this week. I want to get into the media-based chart because we have a new number 1 this week and some news coming from that. Number 5 this week is Cody Johnson, Dirt Cheap. That's a song. Again, I love that song, but it's like someone heard that song and they just write another song about it. Sugarland came out with the concept of that song called There Goes to the Neighborhood. It's from a different perspective than Dirt Cheap. Dirt Cheap's a little bit more sentimental. Sugarland's is a little bit more upbeat. But Justin Moore has a song called This Dirt, which is like literally copy and paste of Dirt Cheap. It's the weirdest things why artists do that. I feel like if I was an artist and I had a song and I was about to release a song that sounded similar to another song that was on country radio, I'd be prone to kind of delay it or put it on the next project, because I don't want people to think I copied them or anything, but they did it. Number 4, Chris Young with Young Love Saturday Nights. Number 3, Luke Combs, Ain't No Love in Oklahoma. Number 2 this week, Dustin Lynch with Jelly Roll Chevrolet. And number 1 this week, for the first time ever, Drew Baldridge with She's Someone's Daughter. You may not know Drew Baldridge. We talked about him many times on this podcast. I talked about his interview on Bobby Bones. He had a couple interviews with Bobby Bones. I'd definitely suggest going on YouTube and checking that out. Really cool story how he's the first ever self-released artist to hit number 1 on the Media Base chart, which is a huge compliment. That basically means he doesn't have a backing of any type of music record label at all to get to there. And that's usually how you get up to number 1 on country radio. You have a lot of people calling for you. He did get a team towards the end. He talks about that on the Bobby Bones podcast, but it's crazy that he's the first ever self-released artist to reach number 1 on the country air check and Media Base chart. And he's actually number 1 on the Billboard Country Airplay chart right now. So that's pretty cool. Great song. Go check it out. It's She's Somebody's Daughter by Drew Baldridge. Great artist. Follow him on social media. I can't wait to hear more that comes out from him. I think his next record is going to be pretty incredible if he keeps writing the way he does and keeps writing just these honest, thoughtful songs that he has written for, like this one about his wife. That's all we have this week for Pro Series Off Topic. Stay tuned to a new episode of Pro Series midweek. And if you did not listen to this past week's Pro Series 154, again, it was an in-person, so go watch the whole video on Spotify or YouTube. It's with Will Marshall, personal trainer here in Pittsburgh. But that's all we have this week. Hope you enjoy the rest of your Labor Day weekend, and we'll talk next week.